Kansas. I'm joined in a room. It's just filled with heroes. Mark Sessler, Chris Wessling, and Greg Rosenthal. What is up, boys?
Hey, Dan.
That feels like a ripe intro that I could take to human resources and file some sort of a complaint. I'm not sure what it would be or why it would be necessarily a home run complaint, but I think I could find a way.
What was that, Mark?
Oh, yeah. What is that new soundbite? I don't like it at all. All right, bye.
You know, we're celebrating. Mark,
I'm not speaking again on this
I've
show.
never heard a sound drop on our show that made me want to take a shower more than that.
Oh,
one.
yeah.
We're celebrating the veterans of this country.
Oh, yeah.
We are, Mark. And so it's fitting that many a battle today on Sunday, Week 10. A great Sunday of action. Wasn't it, Mark?
Oh, yeah.
We really, if you want to go home, Mark, we're covered.
Actually, this may be the best thing that's ever happened to me.
No, a lot of great games today, Sunday. We had, and we were able to really key in on them as a group because there were less games because of the 6 teams on bye. So we, a lot to get to, and it was again one of those weeks where just when you think you have things figured out, there's some curveballs like what happened at the Superdome today, and also all the 1-7 teams won. Like every one of them. So, you know, the NFL, it's unpredictable. How about that for a catchphrase? I have to look up some new catchphrases.
It's almost like any given Sunday. Anything can happen.
Did you come up with that?
Just now.
That's good. That is good. Anyway, on any given Sunday, anything can happen, and we saw that again. So we're going to go through each of the Sunday games, capping it with the showdown in Big D, the Vikings and Cowboys. But let's start with what I believe was the highest scoring game of Week 10 so far, and a game that came with a shocking ending of its own. Let's go to Nashville.
Tannehill looking, firing over the middle, caught. Humphreys 5, Humphreys end zone. Touchdown Titans! Touchdown Titans! Touchdown Titans! Adam Humphreys, 23 yards, and the Titans lead with 23 ticks remaining.
Titans fans always upset. You never give us love. You're always, keeping us down. Well, now you're leading the show, so you enjoy it. Mike Keith with the call. Titans Radio Network. Ryan Tannehill, 23-yard strike to Adam Humphreys with 23 seconds to play. And then Joshua Kalu blocked a last-second field goal attempt. The Titans beat the Chiefs 35-32 in Patrick Mahomes' return to the lineup. Greg, Mahomes was excellent, as always, in his return, but a Chiefs defense we were just singing hosannas over a week ago, they landed on the wrong side of the Tanna scale.
They did. Tannehill has come in, and he hasn't played that great, but he's had a knack for making big plays in the big moments. That's 3 game-winning drives in 4 starts, and the 2 most memorable plays I think the Titans had on offense was him trucking some Chiefs defensive backs, one on a scramble on 3rd and long, which
former wide receiver, remember,
which set up a score, and then another on the 2-point conversion. And yet I don't take too many negatives away from this Chiefs performance. A lot of crazy things happened, but especially on special teams where Butker missed an extra point, which is the reason that they were trailing 3 late because they went for 2. They were only up 1 late. They had the field goal block, of course, that ended the game, and they should have been up 8 with a minute and a half to go, and they snapped the ball before their holder was ready, and they got the first ever intentional grounding on a holder, Dustin Colquitt, with about 1:40 to go that I've ever seen in my entire life, which set up the Titans' game-winning touchdown. So the Chiefs' offense...
fluky, it sounds like.
I don't know if it was fluky, yes. I think the Chiefs' offense is so good, I'm not concerned about the long term, but the Titans did a great job after halftime finding a way to win this game.
Be concerned about one thing, though, because you now have 4 losses.
Yes.
As the Chiefs, and you're in a conference that looked a little wacky a couple weeks ago, but the Ravens are surging with 2 losses, Texans with 3. You're falling out of that spot to get a bye if you keep up these fluky performances.
And that's when they managed with Matt Moore to beat the Vikings last week, it felt like such an important win to them because this is a team that does need to go 11-5 or 12-4 and get themselves set up for January football. And yet dropping this game, and it's no sin to lose on the road against a capable team like the Titans are. Titans aren't a great team, but they've showed fight almost every week this season, especially since Tannehill got in the lineup. But at a certain point, you need to get on a run, and at 6-4, their chances of getting a bye, even the division, you can't just hand it to them. They're only one game ahead of the Raiders now.
Yeah, and on the other side, the Titans, I mean, look what the Colts are doing in that division the last 2 weeks. The Texans are in first place, but have the Ravens and Patriots in 2 of the next 3 weeks, so you can't rule out the Titans.
Well, plus the wild card spot, we'll get to the Bills later, but both of the wild card spots are going to be wide open. The Titans, we shouldn't be too surprised, find a way to get a win to get to 5-5, which is just what the Titans do. And I do give them credit for in the second half. It's a trend. Derrick Henry gets rolling. I mean, the Chiefs are a team I trust because they throw the ball so well, and Mahomes was awesome today. He missed one throw early where it would have gone to Tyreek Hill to make it 17-0. They had, at one point, I think, really halftime, it was 41 plays for the Chiefs to 18 for the Titans, and this could have been a walk early. Mahomes missed that throw, but he didn't miss many, and most of the times they were stopped were because of Tyreek Hill or Sammy Watkins drops or kind of unforced errors. But when the Titans got the ball late, they found a way to make big plays. Tannehill had a pretty throw to Cleve Raymond, and Henry especially down the stretch ran all over the Chiefs, and the Chiefs' run defense is a problem. Their pass defense is pretty good, but their run defense is a problem, and they also lost Emmanuel Ogbah in this game to a torn pectoral, and he's been good.
225 yards on the ground at 8.7 yards per carry. Right. I mean, you get these Derrick Henry games every once in a while where he had nearly 200 on his own, where he explodes and the Titans' offense looks completely different. But they had I feel like every time you looked up, Tannehill was connecting with targets on big plays, which has been totally absent for chunks of the Tennessee season.
They are a more –
that is becoming slightly annoying.
Did you just agree with yourself? And so much for Patrick Mahomes being eased back into action. Not that anybody speculated that would happen, but 36 out of 50 for 446. So he was out there
and it could have been more. It felt like it could have been more. The Titans had no answer. He looked awesome, and yet he still didn't look 100%. They rolled him out, and he was on the move a number of times. He was hesitant to run. I don't think he scrambled the entire game. And he was, and Romo commented on it, he seemed like he was moving at about 80%, and yet he had so many crazy throws, including a jump pass to McCole Hardman that ended up being a 63-yard touchdown, which was one of the most ridiculous plays I've ever seen.
I know Mitchell Schwartz missed some time with a knee injury, and it was the first snaps he's missed in 7.5 years. He has been a total rock in Cleveland first, but now with the Chiefs.
One of the reasons they lost this game is their line, the Chiefs, that is, was really banged up. At one point when Schwartz was out, they were down 4 offensive linemen. If they had one more injury, they wouldn't have had anyone left to put in. And Mahomes was pressured quite a bit by Harold Landry.
Confirming what you said, there was no credited rushing attempt by Mahomes. And also Tyreek Hill targeted 19 times in this game. He finished for 11 for 157 and a touchdown. So, yes, a tough loss for the Chiefs. They're 6-4. That was their first loss away from Arrowhead Stadium. I think we all feel like they're still going to be okay, but they got to get on a winning streak. Let us move on.
Jackson will keep it on the read option. He's got it at the 40, 35, spins at the 30. He's got room, 20. Lamar Jackson, 10, 5, touchdown Ravens! Lamar Jackson with the spin, the sprint, and the score.
I mean, that's Michael Vick in 2004, that play. I mean, this is unbelievable.
Jerry Sandusky and Dennis Pitta of WBAL with the call. Jarrett Johnson's also on that team. I don't want to speculate that was Pitta with the second voice that came in. So let's say Johnson could have been there as well.
Well done.
Lamar Jackson rules the world, the dual threat QB. He threw 3 touchdowns. And then that 47-yard Madden-like touchdown run, Vic-like, if you want to hear it from Pitta and or Johnson. The Ravens roll up the Bengals 49-13. The Ravens are now 7-2. They have the looks of an emerging juggernaut, Mark. My goodness.
I mean, I think the play is Jackson-like. It's not – the Michael Vick is a fine comparison in terms of athletic ability, but he's his own guy, and he's doing things that – it reminds me when I was young and you saw Steve Young rumble against the Vikings on that one run that they've played 4 billion times since. They're going to do that with this, and there are kids watching this that are going to want to go out and play football after school and do the same thing. And they slowed that down and showed him escaping 5 would-be Bengals tacklers in the course of like 20-something yards. It's every game he's doing this because he's MVP worthy. He's the most exciting player next to Patrick Mahomes in the entire league right now. And the Ravens are the team that found a way to form an offense around him that has opponents totally beguiled. The Bengals played this team not that long ago. They appear to have learned literally nothing from that game. And I almost can't blame them because they just have no way to stop what Lamar Jackson's doing. And it was through the air, too. And we mentioned this on our Sky Hit that they used their tight ends, Mark Andrews, Nick Boyle, and Hayden Hurst, from wire to wire. And it was a Gronk-like stat line between all 3 of them. 12 catches, 151 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But they made it so clear to Cincinnati right out of the gate, we are going to attack you with these 3 guys. Figure out a way to stop it. Cincinnati, we get that they're punchless, could do literally nothing. And Cincinnati's rolling out Ryan Finley, first start. To me, looked a little bit like an Andy Dalton-esque type passer. He wasn't bad or good necessarily. I don't think it has any. It makes no.
Like Dalton.
Well, it makes no statement that Andy Dalton should honestly be benched. I think Dalton could have done more in this game, but he couldn't. The Bengals just have so many issues.
There's such a wide gap between
They were so overwhelmed out of the gate, and it was just. Honestly, it's one of the first times I watched the Bengals and just literally felt bad for the entire franchise.
Wes, when we were talking about Lamar Jackson entering this season, obviously the talk was we know he's an explosive athlete, but can he become an effective passer? This is another performance where it's like he is doing it all. 15 of 17 for 223. He's averaging 13 yards attempt in this game, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a perfect passer rating. He is, to me, right now, now he's the MVP, as this is such a great race this year, because what he's doing is just no one can stop him. He's unstoppable.
I totally agree, and the reason he's in the MVP race is because I think he does more than other quarterbacks. Like, as far as carrying the team, the identity runs through him. Nobody is like him. He's just that special kind of guy. On the other hand, I'm not going to judge Lamar Jackson's passing against a team like the Cincinnati Bengals. I just don't think it means anything.
Sorry, real quick. There is one pass in this game where he throws a sidearm Mahomes-like throw. He is developing as a passer.
Absolutely, and I think having Hollywood Brown healthy is huge. I don't think Jackson's close to being where Russell Wilson is in the MVP in terms of being consistent every week, dominating. But he's getting there if he keeps this up. And the difference between him and Vic, and we said on the show, I thought he was the best running quarterback to enter the league since Vic. I think he's one of the best runners in the NFL. That's pretty obvious, even including the running backs. The difference is Vic had Greg Knapp and Dan Reeves trying to run offense for him. They never built it around him, and they've built this around Lamar Jackson, and he is balling. It is a joy.
49 points, by the way, in 3 quarters. They shut it down. They brought in RG3. They could have put up a 60-burger if they wanted to.
Yep, and their trade for Marcus Peters is working very, very well. He had a pick 6 today that essentially set the game on fire early.
Good teams stay good. Bad teams stay bad. When you see what's happening with Marcus Peters and the Ravens and their selection and development of their quarterback and what the Steelers have done with Micah Fitzpatrick, which we'll get to later when people doubted them at first, good organizations usually make good decisions, and you see it bear out.
When I left the Bengals in the 1990s, it was for reasons like a stubbornness to haul your franchise into modern times and accept the reality that this is how the NFL works. And their behavior at the trade deadline reminded me of that. Just a staunch refusal to admit that you need to unload guys like Carlos Dunlap and A.J. Green and Andy Dalton and get what you can for them because the rest of your roster is not going to be ready to win anytime soon.
All right, let's move on. In fact, now it's time for the Road to Victory presented by the United States Marine Corps.
Back is Goff. He has time. He throws the ball down the field. Intercepted. Minkah has it, and that's your ball game. Minkah Fitzpatrick with his 5th Oscar of the year, and that seals the deal.
Tipped by Joe Hayden.
Tipped by Joe Hayden, Bill Hillgrove, Tunch Ilkin of the Steelers Radio Network. This Steelers D is ferocious. Mike Tomlin's D forced 4 turnovers, including Minkah Fitzpatrick's game-icing interception late in the 4th, lifting Pittsburgh to a 17-12 win over the Rams at Heinz Field. total team effort here on the defensive side of the ball. Huge games, T.J. Watt, Joe Hayden. But, Wes, let the takes touting Minkah Fitzpatrick as the Defensive Player of the Year begin, because he has been a monster for them.
This was a total team effort on the defensive side of the ball. T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree bringing heat off the edge like they have all year. Cameron Hayward shoving people into the passer, taking double teams to allow those linebackers to make plays. And then Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick in the secondary. Hayden had 5 passes defensed, at least 3 diving, and it was a joy to watch a player selling out to that degree on every play. Minkah Fitzpatrick, you see his instincts, and it's not often that you can see a player's instincts on the field. You watch the film, you know their tendencies, and then as the play starts, you see that player starting to drift where it should be. And you eliminate more and more options with every split second that comes. He eliminates those options and is where he's supposed to be as much as any safety in the game. He's just always where the ball is going to be, and you see it. And in a year without a Defensive Player of the Year, when you're getting a takeaway every week, I think you have to be in the conversation.
So should T.J. Watt, who had a big forced fumble late in this game. It's funny, every year of the Tomlin era, I think it's the year that the defense is finally going to kind of step up and play to the level of their talent and help them, get to a Super Bowl. They were my Super Bowl pick going into this season, which, if they had more of an offense, who knows? The fact that they've turned the ball over this many times, on one level you can't expect it to continue forever, but it could the whole season. It's a little like the Bears a year ago, but they have so many playmakers. Here's how many times they've turned the ball over since week 3. 5, 2, 3, 3, 4, 3, and today was another 4. That's how many they've forced every week. That is outrageous.
Wow.
And weighted DVOA, which factors in recent play more than September play, they are right behind Patriots and 49ers in defense.
And speaking of awards, awards crazy right now, but Mike Tomlin deserves to be in this conversation now for Coach of the Year, because this is an 0-3 team left for dead. They've now won 5 of 6. And, Wes, on Thursday, you said that you were going to look at Mason Rudolph a little bit differently, not at least give him a chance to develop. And while he is, and you look at his stat line, and they obviously didn't light it up with 17 points, but maybe it's okay where he is right now in the sense that he's protected the ball today, he made enough plays, and then let the defense win the game. That could work.
Well, let's change that 17 points to 8 points, because he gave 2 back on a safety and the defense scored 7. So the offense really wasn't good. And today was a day where the rest of the offense was as bad as the quarterback. The receivers dropped too many passes. The running backs don't make anyone miss because James Conner is injured, of course, and Benny Snell, even the number 2, is injured. Rudolph also is like one play away from disaster all the time, which is why you see some of the play calling they do. He's going to cost them. They can't continue to get this lucky. The best stick in his bag, his number 1 play, is backpedal away from pressure, throw as you're getting hit, and pray that somehow it's a defensive pass interference or your receiver catches it.
You were looking for some Rudolph love. You didn't get
Well, I only say that because I thought you said you were going to try to see the good in him, but you still don't see anything apparently.
What I'm saying is he wasn't so bad that he had his defense over a barrel like the whole offense did, not just the quarterback.
This, I think, was the most discouraging game of the season for the Rams. I obviously want to watch it closer, but if you're a fan of the Rams and you were hoping that the bye week could somehow help them figure out some things offensively, to come back out and go 1 for 14 on 3rd down, to get the ball so many times in this game, and Goff to throw 2 interceptions, 4 turnovers total, and you score 12 points. Now you're looking at a Rams team with the schedule that they have, and they've got a pretty uphill climb to make the playoffs.
I struggle to believe in their fate this season. And it's, you can't ask teams just to continue to be the same thing. They've got a totally different situation with Gurley and at running back. And I know he wasn't a disaster today, but Jared Goff, 2 picks, no touchdowns, and you watched it. They ran into a buzzsaw on defense, but the Rams of old would have found a way to put up points and get around Pittsburgh today.
They don't have any juice.
I totally agree with you. They're one and done in the playoffs if they even get there, I think.
It's incredible. Cooper Kupp was shut out in this game on 4 targets. We know Brandon Cooks is out with a concussion. Like you said, we know what's going on with the running backs. And also, don't sleep on, again, their offensive line is just not doing the job anymore.
And got an injury during the game. They lost lost their center during the game.
So it just keeps on getting worse for them on offense, and you just wonder if this is something that doesn't get fixed until the offseason.
They had 15 drives today. That's an outrageous number, which also shows how poor the Steelers' offense was. They basically got 10 points in 15 drives, and almost none of them, did they get multiple first downs. Credit the Steelers' defense for sure. It's not like they'd get stopped that badly unless they were playing a great defense, but that's outrageous. That Sam Farmer had a great line on Twitter. The Steelers brought back one of their old Super Bowl teams, and the Rams brought out their Super Bowl offense today. It's like 15 drives and a couple points.
To put a point on how the Steelers offense has played this year, they rank between the Bengals and the Bears in drive success rate this year. That's where they're at. The Mitch Trubisky Bears and the winless Bengals is where their offense is. And there was a 2-play sequence late in the game. Mason Rudolph made probably his best throw of the day. Tight window throw in the red zone to Juju. Looked like they're going to set up a field goal. The next play, he keeps backpedaling and tries to hold himself from throwing at the last minute. It squeezes out of his hand. He's lucky it's rolled an incomplete pass. Could have been a fumble, and it might have lost the game for him. So it's just you never know what you're going to get from down to down.
I'll just say, and I am not going to be on Mason Rudolph corner, but on that same possession you're referring to, I believe he went 6 of 7. He took them into field goal range. They cooked the field goal, which was a big deal because it made it a 6-point game or a 5-point game. So he is obviously not the answer or the solution for them, but he's not throwing the game away.
He's got them in the 6th seed right now. Now, he doesn't.
No,
I shouldn't even say that. But they are in the 6th seed is what I should say.
I'm glad you brought that up, Dan. To be fair to him, it was his best successive drive of the day as far as passes he was hitting. But my point is he came within a split second of throwing the game away. So, he's lucky he didn't throw the game
He's like
away.
a solid C- bordering towards C. Do we need him to be something
Thursday
other
Night
than that
Football?
right now?
That's what you're giving him for the year?
Mason Rudolph?
Yeah.
C-?
No, I think that is way too generous.
I don't know. I mean,
Can we loop back the Thursday tape of Wes opening his mind to Mason Rudolph? His mind is closed.
No, he can improve. He has that ability. I would not point to today's game as some
Well, 273 yards of offense, Wes. So you're right. They're not doing it on offense. They're doing it on D, and we'll talk about them more as the week goes on. That was the road to victory presented by the United States Marine Corps. Let's move on.
Here's the snap, give to McCaffrey. He's hit. He drives forward to the goal line. And is he in? That's the question. The officials are marking no. They are saying no. He's not in. Time is wound down. The Packers have hung on.
Nice call there by Wayne Larrivee. Turn this up in my headphones.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I just always think of the natives taking the girl and tying her up for Kong as a sacrifice.
Yep.
I'll say what I said last week. It just reminds me of, low-budget cop dramas.
Was that Fay Ray?
Yes.
Oh, that's going back to the 20s.
It's highly evocative.
Why are
is
we
what
not?
we're saying.
Because I only hear this for a minute each week. Why am I not playing this on loop in my house?
Forget highly evocative. It's highly erotic.
Okay.
All right, Greg takes it to a different direction. All right, let's get into it. Christian McCaffrey stuffed at the goal line. A crushing end to a marathon Panthers march that produced nothing in the Packers' 24-16 win at snowy Lambeau Field. What a vibe at Lambeau. What a mood, as the kids say. Kyle Allen, turn this up in my ear.
Saxophone.
Now Greg's right. All right, anyway, you can turn this down for now. Rick.
Go, Daddy-O.
Kyle Allen led the Panthers. Listen to this, guys. 18 plays, 88 yards on that final drive, but McCaffrey stopped in his tracks. A replay review confirms that he did not make it to the goal line. So in a game in which the Panthers outgained the Packers and Aaron Rodgers was held without a touchdown pass, Green Bay still found a way. Good teams often do.
I was impressed by the secondary figures of the Packers offense. Even though the numbers don't show it, like Alan Lazard made a great play. Jake Kumro made a great play. I thought it was very telling that Rodgers told Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, those guys are going to be playing more down the stretch. And to me, that is going to be at the expense of Valdez Scantling and Geronimo Allison, because it has to be at the expense of someone, and it was also echoed by Matt LaFleur. They're on the same page. It wasn't an amazing performance by, the Packers offense, but they got the job done, and they did run the ball really well when they needed to in the second half, which is big when it's snowy and you've got a lead and you want to finish that game out.
I thought that they ate up Carolina on the ground in that second half. To say they were powerful the way that they ran the ball. I wanted Carolina on that final immense drive that you mentioned, Dan, to target Christian McCaffrey more. And I know that it's not the easiest thing because Kyle Allen was under duress.
They were struggling to
Green Bay, they've been quiet on defense. They made it real tough on Kyle Allen, but there were too many lobs into the end zone and flings downfield where getting Christian McCaffrey open in space at some point on that drive, I think would have been effective.
Came so close. They got to the one, and McCaffrey does what McCaffrey does, which is goes off for about 140 total yards and a touchdown. And I thought with Kyle Allen, that was an interesting performance, and it was a Joe and Troy game for Fox. And Aikman at one point, Greg said, and I think we both kind of chuckled at it because it was kind of a strange thing to say, but it also made sense that about midway through the fourth quarter, he's like, yeah, other than those 2 turnovers, Kyle Allen's played a really good game. Well, you can't really kind of take out the turnovers and say he's had a good game, but he really kind of did. He threw a bad interception in the red zone that really killed him, as you could tell by the final score. He lost the fumble, but otherwise he did a nice job in tough conditions against a good team.
Especially when, as we mentioned, he wasn't getting protected well. I don't quite get the Allen, I don't know if hate's the right word, but criticism and lack of belief that I hear, especially even from Panthers fan, Josh Norris, who I like a lot at Road World. Like, they think it's first read or nothing for him. And I see a lot of good throws for a guy who's only started 6 or 7 games. He's kept the offense very functional, even in a game where they were down 2 scores. We thought this game was over, and he gets them to within a yard of going for the 2 and trying to get into overtime.
And it comes on a day when Ian Rappaport noted this morning that it is highly unlikely that the Panthers will keep Cam Newton. And noted a trade is the most likely route to eject or seat him out of the building.
That's a fascinating offseason subplot. I mean, the newsroom is going to go off when Cam Newton is traded.
See, here's the thing.
To the Denver Broncos.
I guess I don't. Who is trading him? Because
who is trading for him?
Who is trading him that works for the Panthers? Okay. Maybe it's the owner, and I'm not gonna guess sources. But here's the thing: we don't know who the GM or the coach is gonna be next year. So unless ownership has decided, which is very possible. I mean, these things happen. But unless ownership's decided that they don't want Cam, how can we know unless
it's the current people in power, and that could change.
Right. Maybe the expectation is, since they're playing so well under Rivera and Marty Herney's done a pretty good job in his second time around, that this group will be the team next year.
Well, I think it would be the owner, right? Because
I agree.
That this is not the man who drafted Cam Newton. There's not those type of deep ties. I think Tepper, this guy's.
You don't want your owner making quarterback.
Right, dude. That's a bit concerning.
Well, the owner, he's the boss, and if he's a guy that wants to put his stamp on the team, and he's ready to make a change, and he feels like he won't be killed for it, because owners, they go with the wind on that as well, I could see him doing it.
But let's slow down on firing Ron Rivera, please.
Right. Maybe that's the thing, is that they fully anticipate this will be the same group.
What were you going to say, Wes?
Considering the market in which he plays and his status as a superstar and a marquee attraction, a trade like that, it would start with the owner.
Yep. Well, they have to get approval on it. I mean, you ideally don't want them making decisions. We're ahead of the game here. He would be eminently tradable, and I get it. I don't know if they have.
It's a great storyline in the offseason.
We need these storylines.
We crave them.
Aaron Jones, by the way, is on pace for the sneakiest 20 touchdown season we've ever seen.
He's so explosive. That's what I took away watching this game. Even when they're not firing on all cylinders, you get a 48-yard play to Jimmy Graham, which was great.
What year is this?
Great coaching. You
snowing out.
You
Were there
have
any defenders out there?
No, it was a good play call, good execution. You get the 38-yard play to Devontae Adams when they were backed up against their own goal line, and they're in the end zone 3 plays later. Aaron Jones is obviously very explosive. This offense, even when they're not always getting first downs, they feel like they're always an explosive play away, like a great Aaron Rodgers throw. It happens 3 or 4 times a game.
When they talked about the fact that Aaron Jones had a potbelly at some stage last year, and there were questions about his Aaron Rodgers teased him, and I mean, the running back position is the one where if you go and spend 4 months changing your body, your year is going to be completely different. And that's how it's looked. And I will say one thing. We all love these snow games. That Packers crowd was one of the best crowds all year, and they kept noting how loud they were, how immense, how raucous they made it, and how tough they made it on the Panthers.
That was one of the more impressive touchdown drives you'll see all year. They were backed up 2nd and 21 with Rodgers taking the snap and backing into the end zone. And in legitimately less than 5 minutes of real time, they were in the opposite end zone. And the other point I want to make is Aaron Jones, as Wes alludes to, he's on a tremendous touchdown pace. He had 3 today, which I can guarantee you means he ain't touching. He ain't going near the goal line because Aaron's going to get his TDs next week and the week after that.
I love this.
Buckle up.
Cooked up narrative.
Fantasy owners, beware. Aaron Jones, he ain't getting the ball near the goal line. Play action for the win. Any other points?
Why go anywhere else after that?
Just felt like
close it out with that.
Strong ending.
All right, then let's move to the NFC South, where we got one of the biggest upsets of the season. In fact, I think the Desert said this was the biggest upset of the season.
Ryan in the gun. Ryan back up in the pocket, throws, backside Hill, open, diving and scoring in the pylon. And the Atlanta touchdown for Brian Hill, the last guy in the package.
Haven't heard much from Wes Durham this year over at the Falcons radio network because Atlanta stinks, but not on Sunday. Matt Ryan throws 2 touchdown passes, and that Falcons 6-game losing streak, it's over. A 26-9 win over the Saints at the Superdome that ended the Saints' 6-game winning streak. This is a bitter rivalry, and you just assumed that a Saints team that has, Super Bowl written all over it potentially would just stomp on a downtrodden Falcons team. It just didn't work out that way. Wes, it was the Falcons defense, too, that whipped up on a Saints team that had Alvin Kamara, had Drew Brees, and it didn't matter. How?
It was interesting to see a big rivalry game like this, both teams coming out of their bye week, and you would have thought that the Falcons were the 7-1 team and the Saints were the 1-7 team. For the first time all year, the Falcons had a ball-controlled, keep-away offense. I don't know where they got it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know where they got it. Devonta Freeman wasn't really making people miss, but he was moving the chains until he got injured. And then they went to Brian Hill, who moved the chains. Matt Ryan, playing on a gimpy ankle a couple of times, moved the chains on 3rd down. Marshawn Lattimore had a thigh injury. Julio Jones didn't have a catch before that injury. He went out. He went out, and then Julio kind of went off for a while for some big catches. But this was a checklist of things that had to happen for the Saints to lose. And a roughing the punter penalty, 4 illegal hands to the face penalties, which I've never seen before in one game. 4 illegal, they were all legit. Drew Brees' accuracy was off on easy throws. You don't see that often. Alvin Kamara, a non-factor behind Latavius Murray. A much bigger advantage for Falcons on 3rd and 4th downs. They signed Younghoe Koo, give him Michael Vick's uniform number, and he drills 4 field goals.
Of course.
Here's the biggest story of the game, though, to me. The Falcons enter this game with 7 sacks on the season from their defense. The Saints had given up 12 sacks on the season, and the Falcons got Brees for 6 sacks, which tied his career high for most sacks taken in a game. And Greg pointed out with our Sky Sports hit that Jeff Ulbrich is calling the plays now. I didn't put much stock into it because every 3rd game Dan Quinn gives up play calling, it seems to me, so I don't even know when he's calling plays.
Apparently, Ulbrich's done it before a little, but now
there was a shakeup, yeah.
Yeah, it worked. I didn't watch closely enough to see if they were running stunts or why the Saints couldn't all of a sudden block, but Drew Brees isn't nearly as nimble in the pocket as he used to be. He couldn't get out of the way of some pressure that he used to get out of the way of. And the Saints just couldn't get anything going. Even late in the fourth quarter when, they were just turning it over on downs a couple of times in a row.
So was this a bad week, or did you see some legitimate flaws here that are something other teams can pick at?
I've been on this since late Thanksgiving of last year that the Saints offense is just limited in how far they can go down the field, how much of the field they can use because of Breeze's arm. But you also have a situation where if Alvin Kamara isn't 100%, and Traquan Smith and Ted Ginn are dropping passes, who else is out there for your offense outside of Michael Thomas, which is why he has another great game, becomes the quickest in history to 400 receptions. But, Jared Cook had a few nice catches. There were also a few borderline balls he might have caught late in the fourth quarter that he didn't. So I think they're still looking for that third guy to step up outside of Kamara and Michael Thomas.
There were light chants for Teddy.
That's wild.
Who are the idiots that are chanting
Well,
for
I said
Drew Brees
light
to be
because I think it
benched?
probably was a flock
Fools.
of idiots.
You know what? I just came up with a theory. This is probably totally wrong, and then someone could prove it. Is maybe it was the Falcons fans there doing a little mocking.
I wouldn't put it past
Teddy
them. That is a great rivalry.
That's
Those
Machiavellian. I like
because
those
there
fans
there was a little section of Falcons fans there. I noticed at one point that they got quickly booed. And it is such a cliche. It's like you throw the records out when these two teams play. And I'm thinking, no, not really. The Saints have been better the last couple of years, and they've beaten the Falcons like a drum, especially in New Orleans. But I don't know. There's something to it. You're kind of happy for Dan Quinn. Falcons, their team website, not the most unbiased, group in the world, but they said it's one of the great defining wins of the Dan Quinn era. And, in a season where everything is this terrible, it does have to feel great for the Falcons to be sending out these little trolling tweets, and they go and they put one on the 7-1 Saints.
Put it this way, Wes.
It's 1 week.
Expectations have been recalibrated in Atlanta. It used to be they were trying to win a Super Bowl. Now they'll settle for this.
Right, because it's defining also because if the score were flip-flopped and Atlanta were going home down 26-9, Dan Quinn may not be working there a few days from now.
I'd be a little worried. You're absolutely right. And this should keep it, going for the rest of the year. What's the point of firing him mid-season? 6 sacks and a team that doesn't throw the ball down the field is a troubling combo. He was only sacked 17 times all of last season. And in the game against the Cardinals, their offense was great with Drew Brees back. But he only threw, I think, 2 passes that traveled more than 10 yards in that game, to Wes's point, and it was working. At some point, they will have to open it up a little bit.
I don't want to make this all on the Saints. Grady Jarrett, who is legitimately in the run for an All-Pro in a year with Aaron Donald and Calais Campbell, had another 2.5 sacks and has been phenomenal all year.
Just to point out, and this is my favorite example of pointing out the rivalry and the intense dislike between Falcons fans and Saints fans. After 28-3 happened, Super Bowl 51, a couple weeks later was Mardi Gras. And the people of New Orleans created a 28-3 float to celebrate the loss of the rival, a game that had nothing to do with the Saints that took place far, far away. They love reveling in each other's misfortune.
Heck, they flashed the big thing at the stadium today in the fourth quarter when the Saints were down a couple touchdowns, about 28-3, like a video montage or something about it. And that's not going to work when the Falcons got Younghoe Koo wearing Michael Vick's number 7. Koo put that 7 on, and he said, I'm the baddest 7 that's ever played for the Falcons. He hit 3 field goals. This is the comeback player of the year, Wes. Put it in your column.
I like Younghoe Koo. I'm happy you can't ice the kicker when he's already got ice in his veins,
Let's shoot over to the AFC.
It's 53 to tie. Waiting on the snap. It's back. He's into it. The kick is on the way. It doesn't look like it has enough. It's no good! No good! 17 seconds left to go. The Browns sideline explodes. The stadium explodes.
Did Doug Deacon, the color guy for the Browns, have money on the other team or something? He's like, oh, no.
Not that I know of. Are you breaking more news?
Jim Donovan and Doug Deacon with a call for the Browns radio network. Baker Mayfield, he threw a 7-yard touchdown pass to Rashard Higgins with 1:44 to play. And then Bills kicker Stephen Hauschka, as you just heard, went wide left on a long field goal attempt in the final seconds. The Browns escaped 19-16, the win at the Dog Pound. Mark, that ends Cleveland's 4-game losing streak. And thanks to that final Mayfield touchdown, quiets the talk of Cleveland's issues in the red zone.
Well, I don't know if it quiets that talk because they were an absolute disaster in the red zone.
It would have been louder if they didn't get it.
It would be a lot louder. A win does a lot, but they essentially at one point in the game, in terms of their red zone issues, it was absolutely maddening. They had 9 goal-to-go plays that resulted in 0 yards. But getting down into the red zone, they looked better than they have in a while. I thought that Odell Beckham got going. Jarvis Landry, who is a physical, tough receiver when he's on, played with a absolute fire inside of him today. I thought he really wanted this game as much as I've seen from anyone on the Browns all year. Nick Chubb is an absolute bad man. I mean, the way he runs, I said it before, and I'm not trying to overstate it. There are moments where he has Jim Brown a look to him. He just runs with that kind of urgency. But they got bottled up inside the 10. And I woke up thinking this thing was going to be a Browns win because they confirmed this morning they changed the end zone stripes from these energy-stopping horizontal stripes to ones that are vertical. And I've been on this case since the beginning of the year.
Yes, you have.
Tweeting about it, annoying people relentlessly.
You might be the reason they changed it.
Well, I do think that I do have it confirmed that people inside the building are very aware and listening, as a lot of teams are, and struggling teams, to various things that are out there. And I think that they maybe did make a shift here based on a lot of people agreeing that the horizontal stripes just looked weird and shrunk the end zone.
Well, the vertical stripes are kinetic.
They just look right, don't they?
They allow a lane into the end zone.
Yeah. It's an energy thing, and I think the way that they opened up the Browns today, I thought this is going to be the game where we're finally going to see what we've been waiting to see. And they played a great defense, Buffalo, and they got bottled up. And I don't think it quiets really any concerns about what Cleveland overall, the way that they approach game after game. One uptick to have Kareem Hunt in there. I was thinking there's a world where Kareem Hunt has 5 touches for -8 yards, and it's a complete mess. He made a big difference, and they decided not to start Antonio Callaway today. Part of that is because Rashard Higgins, who had the game-winning touchdown, was active and someone that they wanted to get involved. I also think it's because of the way that Kareem Hunt was used. Out at wide receiver multiple times, a factor in the passing game, someone that's tough to cover if you're not going to put a cornerback on him, and he made a difference. He had a couple big blocks and some tough runs, too. He looked ready.
Sounds like Mark's in.
Well, he looked ready to play.
Sounds like you're in, Mark.
Well, no, you know what?
They needed a guy like that.
They absolutely did. It's the
whole thing.
The one extra part. Well,
the Browns got you excited right now.
They have Pittsburgh on Thursday. Here's where they're at. Every week is you lose, you're out. You're done. You're cooked.
3-6. They're
right?
in a tough spot.
So you're cooked if you lose. So they went and they saved the day today, their season against Buffalo. And Wes and I got our locks. As you knew we would. We were not sure about that.
To your point about the vertical stripes in the end zone, why do you think I chose number 11 in basketball in 5th grade? Makes you look taller.
There you go. There you go.
So, yes, not a high-powered offensive showing on either side in terms of yardage or anything. But the Bills, 16 points again, Mark, and it looks like same old issues on their end, that their defense does a nice job, and they got the goal line stands, and they almost won the game outright at the end on a near turnover on a underhanded flip to Kareem Hunt that went sideways, and that got brought back, which then led to the go-ahead Browns touchdown. So they were close, but did you see the same issues that have kind of led people to be not so bullish on the Bills in general?
Yes, because I like Devin Singletary a lot, but he's kind of going to give you what he gave you today, which is 42 yards on the ground.
Only eight attempts, though.
Right. They never really got into their flow either. It was low scoring for a reason and looked that way. And, John Brown, every week he does something. Every week he produces. Every week Cole Beasley produces. But you don't have a superstar weapon here that can take over the game. Josh Allen, a couple scampers, very scary. And he's going to do the same thing too. He is going to kill you if you don't put someone on him in coverage. And he's got an incredibly strong arm, but the accuracy is there too. To the point where, I like Josh Allen in terms of his athleticism, but they have a lot to think about in the offseason because it would be tough for them to shift gears, but I don't know what the ceiling is for Josh Allen when we're this many games in and the same issues exist.
Well, they're putting it on him almost like they want to see what his ceiling is. They are extremely pass-heavy, and they have been throughout the year. You would not think that the Bills, who have had a lot of leads or been in a lot of close games, would be a team that's really relying on Josh Allen's arm. But I think a lot of teams did what the Browns did today. They try to stop the run. They're worried about Josh Allen running, and they dare Allen to beat him. And you have a lot of games like this week where Allen threw 41 passes.
Right.
And for the most part, that's, amounted to a mediocre offense.
Completing 22 of them.
That tells me that at this stage anyway, they still believe in him completely. In fact, they're waiting for him to make the leap. This isn't a team that's trying to hide their quarterback. I feel like that's when you're getting to the point where the organization might be ready to look in a different direction. I don't think they're there yet, but they're still. It's
like when you bring in Blake Bortles on third down.
Right, they have 7 games to play. If he regresses over the rest of the season, perhaps. Right now, I still think they think he's the guy.
It's not a yet. It's not there yet. I would say that you cannot. They are doomed if they are going to have kicker issues down the stretch. They're going to have to win games by 1, 2, 3 points, and Steven Hauschka missed a 34-yarder along with that game winner.
Well, the Bills are 6-3, and I think the Browns at 3-6 should have some playoff, just dreams. They got to win Thursday night, partly because right now the Steelers are in that 6th spot, and if the Bills are capable of collapsing entirely, this is, one of those years you certainly could see a 9-win team make the playoffs, or who knows.
The Raiders win on Thursday, and the Titans win, and the Browns beating the Bills. The Colts keep losing.
It's bunching
up.
The
AFC wildcard picture is wide open, but I think we're all in agreement if the Browns want to be taken seriously, they got to win at home Thursday night.
Absolutely, or it's over.
We shall see. Let's move on.
4th and 7. Driscoll stepping up. Driscoll steps out of a tackle, running left, fires into the end zone. Pass is incomplete.
Flag down.
As time expires, but there is a flag. There we go.
Offense. Oh, okay.
Ball game. Fade to black. Bears defense holds 20-13. They snapped their 4-game losing streak.
Clearly, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer weren't watching the telecast because Jeff Driscoll marched about 3.5 to 4 yards beyond the line of scrimmage before throwing that final incompletion. It was very clear what that flag was going to be. Anyway, Club Dub is back in business. Mitch Trubisky tied a season high, 3 touchdown passes. All 3 of those scores coming in a span of 5 passes late in the second quarter and early in the third quarter. The Bears withstand a late charge by the Lions. They win 20-13. The Bears do. 4-game losing streak is over for Chicago. Matt Nagy can sleep better knowing his offense showed a bit of a spark in this one, at least in that period that I'm referring to. 3 possessions, 3 touchdowns. Before that, the 4 previous possessions were just as bad as it was last week when they had, 7 yards in the first half of that loss. This time it was 21 yards in the first 4 possessions, and Soldier Field, again, restless and believing that it was time to get Chase Daniel on the field. Think about that in terms of darkness. And then the game shifted on that last possession of the first half, a 80-yard drive, 10 plays, and it ends with a really nice Trubisky touchdown pass to the tight end. So that got them going, and then they were able to sustain that in the third quarter. They kind of disappear again down the stretch, and the Lions, with Jeff Driscoll starting in place of Matt Stafford, who we learned this morning was scratched with reportedly fractures in his back, an injury that's been lingering for a while for him, and we'll see if that's something that's going to keep him out multiple weeks. But Driscoll didn't do much. He made a really nice touchdown pass, a 47-yard touchdown pass in the fourth quarter to Kenny Golladay that got him back in the game. And then after a 3-and-out by the Bears, the Lions had a chance, and they were marching down the field. They just ran out of time, as you heard on that highlight. So the Bears, I kind of wanted to see the Bears defense just step up and just make that game a laugher, and the opposite happened. The Lions had a chance to force overtime. So it wasn't the great Chicago defensive effort you were expecting against Jeff Driscoll, of course, as well. You're expecting the Bears to clean up. But I locked up the Bears, and that's 5 straight for the old Zeuser after 5 losses to start the season.
Nice work.
Impressive.
Because I don't think this is going to be a nightmare season for them. I just think they kind of are what they are, which might be about 7 wins, and they got 1 of them today.
Well, this is the worst possible win you can have. It's a pathetic offensive performance.
There are no bad wins, Greg Rosenthal.
To have 226 yards against one of the worst defenses in the league.
Yeah.
And then you think maybe you turned a corner and you go 3 and out in 4 of your last 5 possessions. Yeah. And you're playing Jeff Driscoll and you're playing an offensive line that lost 2 of its starters. There's an article on MLive.com that is just a list of the 16 different Lions that were hurt in this game. So there's no, to me, this is not. Yeah, you move on and maybe you get better a week from now, but they didn't show up. And if you have to believe if Matthew Stafford is on the field and you're not running Paul Perkins and McKissick as your 2 running backs at the end of the game, the Lions are a better team.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's nothing about this game that screams, oh, they fixed their problems or they're ready to make a rise. And if the optimistic viewpoint is they got a little bit better last week in the second half with 2 touchdown drives. They did have 3 touchdown. They had one was a short field, I believe, but they had
one was 20 yards.
They had 3 scores. That I know it doesn't sound great, but to understand how bad this offense has been for large swaths of the season, there is a tiny bit of progress if you want to see that.
Because you're playing the 29th defense in the league who's more injured than ever.
But if you're just people staring at box scores, it looks a lot better for Mitchell Trubisky than the reverse, which would be 3 picks. And if I'm a Lions fan, you've had a quarterback in Matthew Stafford this year that's played as well as he's ever played in his career, and he's been a fascinating guy who'd get much more attention if he weren't stuck in Detroit in the middle of nowhere in terms of football coverage. And
nice recovery.
Well, it is. I mean, it's not on the coast.
I thought it was a geographical hit piece for you for a second.
Detroit people would have been mad, but
they're so banged up. But like you think of Tony Romo, right, who had a back injury at various times. You think of Derek Carr when he did. It's just I don't know what we have in Matthew Stafford from figuring it out if it's serious at all. I mean, season over.
This Bears offense isn't going to be fixed until Trubisky's a running threat again. Last year he was 5th in rushing yards amongst quarterbacks. This year he's 22nd. And until Tariq Cohen is a big play threat again, which he hasn't been all year.
All right, let's move on.
Here's the snap, maybe the final play of the game. Dropping back Murray, under pressure Murray. Murray throws the ball up for grabs, downfield. It is knocked away. No time left. Bucs win. Bucs win.
That is the ball game.
Bucs win.
He's still shouting.
Deckerhoff, Bucs Radio Network. Kyler Murray's desperation heave was a prayer unanswered. And a pass interference uncalled, in my opinion. But that's beside the point. The Cardinals washed away by the ice water in the veins of Jameis Winston Sunday at the large pirate ship. Winston led the Bucs on a 6-play, 92-yard drive in the closing minutes. The decisive score in a 30-27 win. Greg, ice water.
No. I mean, he's good in the 2-minute drill. I'll give the Bucs that. I think they're one of the better 2-minute drill teams. It's week after week. They did it before halftime. They did it at the end of the game. Maybe that's when Jameis Winston's not thinking and they're just playing. They should try to do that the whole game because the rest of it, he seemed very much in his own head. Had a couple interceptions. Could have had a couple more. Some bad decisions. But the Bucs are who they are. They're so consistent. They're so bad in the secondary. They're amazing stopping opposing running backs. Kenyon Drake and David Johnson had, I think, 26 touches in this game for 51 yards.
Whoa!
22 touches for 51 yards. And David Johnson fumbled the ball on a key catch late in the game that really helped Tampa put it away.
That was their first fumble all year.
Right. I mean,
first time since 1940 a team went 9 games without a fumble.
And Kyler Murray had his first interception in a long time. So the Bucs. You would have thought, oh, maybe they win the turnover battle. Nope, they still lose it. They turned it over 3 times. They are the same team each and every week. They just sort of found a way to win this one.
Remember when the Patriots had that long streak of really extraordinary low fumbles and everybody thought it was some kind of weird combination of Belichick cheating and black magic?
That was true, though. This is different. This is a different situation.
Mostly luck.
The Bucs are the most the perfectly situated 3-6 team ever. They should end their season because they're the ultimate 3-6.
Well, they're fun to watch off.
Stop it. We know who you are. That's it.
We do. If they had a good defense, like a legit good defense, they'd be winning some games because as much as Winston gives it away and is a huge problem with the turnovers, they put up points and they put up yards. O.J. Howard's been playing better lately. He had a big game, which helped turn it around. Ronald Jones as the starting running back. I thought made a difference last week. Didn't get it too much done on the ground today, but had 77 yards receiving and 8 catches. They were killing them with screens. It's like it's a Bruce Arians team through and through.
Kyler Murray filling up the box score again. How did he play?
I thought he missed a number of throws early, but overall you got to be excited. You hit Christian Kirk deep.
Couldn't get rid of the ball on that last drive.
Right. I would say a very up and down game, but at least he made a lot of plays to go along with the mistakes, although he did have the turnover. Yeah,
He's first in 5 games.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. They're a 3-6-1 team too. They, to me, do not smell like a team that should have been 4-5-1. So I like it when teams just kind of reach their appropriate level.
Vernon Hargreaves benched for lack of hustle.
Never a good sign. Never a good sign.
Takes a lot to get.
Unless you don't want to keep playing football, then it's a very good sign for him.
You ever touch Jameis Winston's hand? You ever shake his hand?
I've never met him.
It's like pure ice. The man fears nothing but
That's
God.
how Young Way's Koo's feet are, too.
Let's move on.
Fitzpatrick back to throw. Getting pressure again. Rolls to his right. Pump fake. He's going to run with it. He's the 5. Touchdown.
All right.
Ryan Fitzpatrick fake pumped it and took off. He goes, I'm going to the corner. Gets a touchdown.
That's the last thing that defense was worried about was 36-year-old quarterback running the football.
You know, when you get older than 36 and announcers say that stuff, you start to feel bad about yourself because it's like, it's not that crazy that he ran 11 yards.
No.
He's a 36-year-old professional athlete. It's like the idea that you – Jimmy Cephalo, Bob Greasy, and Joe Rose with the call for the Dolphins radio network. Yeah, Fitzmagic, 11-yard touchdown run in the first half. And then the Dolphins make a late stop with the help of a costly mental error from Eric Ebron. That preserves a 16-12 win over the Colts. That's 2 straight wins for the Dolphins, who have put that historically inept first 2 months in the rear view. Draft positioning be damned. Mark, how'd they win in Indy today?
I think they're really well coached. I mean, for the lack of assets on both sides, for both lines being what they are, I think they're the least penalized team in the entire NFL right now, and that has a lot to do with Brian Flores. And he, you know what? Forget the whole organic tank business. They were fired up on the sideline, and this is a Colts team that rode through the first 7 games of the year with 7 turnovers. And that's how they won, I think, partly because they were a mistake-free operation. They've had 6 in the last 2 weeks, and you got the every other Brian Hoyer game where he played really well last week. Today, he was a turnover machine. They just don't have enough around him to make up for the mistakes. And Miami, watching them today, I understand that the whole point here is to try to get the first overall pick. They're going to win 3 or 4 games. They've already got to 2, and they've got the Bengals on their schedule later in the year. They've got the Jets and Giants. They could win one of those 2. That's 4-12.
That's the thing that people that aren't really, watching the Dolphins, they've been conflating this whole time that the Dolphins aren't trying to win. The team's trying to win. It's the management that set them up. Now, it was more a major league type thing. The movie, than an actual situation where the whole team was in the tank. And you've seen it week after week that they were getting better. And, yeah, I think it is a credit to Flores because if you think about it, that was the worst start of any team in NFL history. Now, you could also say that's kind of on Brian Flores too if you want to be that guy. But the fact that he was able to get them out of that bleak place where they were the joke and the laughing stock of the league and everyone with their very somber takes about how the Dolphins were, a disgrace for what they were doing and all that stuff. He just kept on trying to get this team competitive, and now they're winning.
Isn't this near the top of the reasons why your front office should not tank? Because your coach and players are not going to be on board with your plan?
Well, right. Why would they? I mean, they didn't look like a team tanking when they stuffed the Colts 27 yards rushing for Indianapolis in the first half. One of the best offensive lines in football, and Miami completely bottled them up. I mean, it was an impressive
Last week, as a Jets fan, I'm reading all the postmortems, and there was talk, is this the worst Jets loss of all time? It's like, no, because the Dolphins have been competitive for weeks now. They were going to get a win, and now they got 2 wins. And as Mark's saying, they're probably going to get 3 and 4 and potentially be out of the top 5. And perhaps there are Dolphins fans that are upset about that, and I get that too because when you're trying to get a young franchise quarterback, sometimes you just want things to work out your way. And maybe, Greg, they still have enough assets, even if they go 4 and 12 or 3 and 13, that they could make a trade up the board. So it's not the end. Even if they don't end
Who
up
knows?
in the
Even
top
right
three,
now, they're only in the 4th spot with
Right.
those 2 wins. That's not too far down.
They could not get the number 1 pick and still get the guy they want potentially.
Can we just point out that this Colts team is not like the 5-3 Colts team that the record said they was? They were playing without their starting quarterback. 3 of their top 4 wide receivers.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. The expectations have changed so much. In Indianapolis, they're saying the same things about how embarrassing this loss is and what a travesty. It kind of shows how high the expectations are that Reich has made so quickly, that a team led by Brian Hoyer or the number 1 wide receiver, Zach Pascal, is fully expected to win. And it is a bad loss, but they've been playing with very slim margins, and their offensive line is overrated based on how they've played the last 3 or 4 weeks. They just haven't made a big difference. I tried to watch that game closely a week ago. They weren't pushing the other team around on the offensive line. And the Dolphins are playing much tougher defensively, because if you're getting any pressure on Hoyer and you're stopping the run fairly well, then this is not a team, the Colts that is, where they're dominating on the offensive line anymore.
I do wish we could have gotten a full season from Darius Leonard. He was awesome today. 13 tackles, had a massive sack of Ryan Fitzpatrick on 3rd down, had an interception. And the Colts, though, also, you're right. Brissett had 3 interceptions through his entire run.
Teams change, though, and coaching matters. Like, if Brian Flores is a good coach, I'd rather see that as a Dolphins fan than see a bunch of losses. I feel like this is one of the defining moments of Fitzpatrick's career, like a thing that you'll remember. It's awesome.
Had several.
I think
it's been a fun career.
His leadership and spirit, for lack of a better word, not that he played like lights out today, but that's a tough spot, and I don't think there's many quarterbacks that could have come in and kind of had the intensity and way to build this team up.
His beard, by the way, is now at an insane level. Like, I get that
it
was big and bushy for a long time, but it is as
he looks like
big
a guy
as it's ever been.
That lives in the Harvard library. And, like, no one ever went and got him.
Absolutely.
He just lives his entire life there. And I should add a little context before we move on. Eric Ebron on a 4th and 10 with a game on the line ran a 9-yard route.
Yikes.
And was stopped. Like an 8.5-yard route. It wasn't even close. They didn't even have to take out the sticks.
It's Ebronian.
And everybody just kind of was like, Brian Flores ran down the sideline and he was pumped up. But everybody else was just like, oh, I guess we just won the game because this dude didn't run a 10-yard route with the game on the line needing 10 yards. Okay. We'll take it.
Just a little more context. They wouldn't have been in that situation if Adam Vinatieri hadn't missed a killer PAT. I mean, just every week you're getting something new with this guy.
I talked about this last week. You got to make the move. Got to make the move.
You already missed out on Koo. You might be a playoff team if you had Koo.
Can't pick up the phone and call Kai? What's a Kai got to do?
The book on Kai must not be a good read at this point. Let's be honest.
Let's move on to the most important game of Week 10.
Jones back to throw. Under some pressure, he'll be hit. Jamal Adams takes the ball away. He's going to run right and score. Jamal Adams to the 5 is into the end zone for a touchdown. Jamal Adams on a blitz simply snatches the ball away from Daniel Jones and runs it back for a Jet defensive touchdown.
Haven't heard much from Bob Wischusen over on the Jets Radio Network on this program, but we hear it there. The Jets Twitter feed called it a gimme 6. Jamal Adams muscled past Saquon Barkley, then ripped the ball out of the hands of Daniel Jones, took it to the house for the Jets, who leaned on their star safety in a 34-27 win over the Giants in a big, dumb, stupid, fun football game between two bad teams. How's this for a stat line from the president, as he calls himself? 8 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, a touchdown, and a crucial 4th down stop on a Daniel Jones QB sneak in the 4th quarter. It was the best game of his career and a stark reminder that one of the Jets' chief priorities going forward, and they have a lot of work to do to build this organization into a contender again, but to see if you can repair this relationship. And I know there in the news this past week that he finally met with the GM and the coach, and they smooth things over. But who knows if that's actually true? It might be just something to make the story go away. What they should do is in the offseason make him the highest paid safety in the league, because as we saw in this game, his ceiling is higher than anybody.
There are starting safeties who will go the full 16-game schedule and not have that many game-changing plays the entire season.
Oh, yeah. That's outrageous.
It was an important win for the Jets, who also got Sam Darnold back on track a little bit. For the third straight week, he went right down the field on the first possession, scored a touchdown. The difference this time, he scored another touchdown. The next possession, they go ice cold again for most of the second quarter into the third quarter, and that's when Adams had his big touchdown, which kind of steadied the ship for New York. So the Jets overcome actually a second half deficit. It was progress and no turnovers for Darnold. And so Adam Gase, whose QB whisperer reputation is in tatters, he needs to stack some performances like this from his quarterback to have a chance to stick around. And on the other sideline, I would think that Pat Shurmur is getting close to needing a Hail Mary, because the Giants, this is an organization that's a proud organization that's had a lot of success, and they've been bad for a while now, and they were just dreadful in this game. I mean, they're now 2-8. They've lost 6 in a row. And when Daniel Jones, who, again, is a very promising young quarterback, when he throws for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns and posts a passer rating north of 120, and you still can't beat the Jets, it just shows the glaring deficiencies around you on your roster.
I found an answer to a question that I didn't know I had, but now I have it. How many rushes do you need to have an average of 0.1 yards per carry?
What is the answer?
13 carries for Saquon Barkley, 0.1 yards per carry, because he managed 1 yard on the ground.
Well, Tom Rock from Newsday broke it down well. He averaged 2.75 inches per carry.
Yeah, and that is, that's obviously a credit to the Jets' run defense, which has been good all year. But also, I don't know if Saquon Barkley is all the way back from that high ankle sprain. He's had a couple flashes since he's been back, but he certainly hasn't been the same guy. So they couldn't run the ball, and their defense had too many lapses. And, I just wonder if Shurmur is going to make it.
Well, they mentioned that John Mara, Giants owner, was absolutely steamed after the game, making eye contact with no one while answering a few questions. I do wonder about what's going on. I know Le'Veon Bell is not fully healthy either, but his box score is troubling as well, and I feel like it's just sort of week after week waiting for that one Le'Veon Bell game where he has 180 yards, and he's never getting it.
He averaged less than 2 yards a carry. They have a terrible offensive line, but I don't think he's moving as well, and I know he was very banged up going into this week, if that played a role, but there were a couple times, it doesn't happen often with this offense, but where he got the ball with a little bit of space, and he didn't seem to have the juice. That is something worth tracking for the Jets. But
very strange game that neither team First of all, Jones threw for 304 yards, and the Giants didn't. And the Giants gained less than 300 yards.
You
don't see that too often.
That's what happens when you rush for 23 yards.
He was sacked 6 times for 50 yards.
Right, and then the Jets didn't gain 300 yards either in a game they scored 34 points.
34 points and scored 4 touchdowns.
And someone had a great stat of the Giants' record since Odell and everyone on the boat took the picture.
Yeah.
You remember that?
The boat picture.
10 and 32 since that picture was.
That's better than I would have expected.
10 and 32.
Teams don't do well on these boat trips. We know that from the Vikings and others. So.
Yeah, some trips go worse than others.
Fred Smoot.
And finally, before we move on, we haven't had many opportunities to have my dad on to share his thoughts about the Jets. So I figure,
nice.
Coming off our dub, we're in Club Dub in the Meadowlands. So let's hear from Keith Hansis.
His name is Keith, his dad's dad. No doubt about it, he's a big Jets fan. What is he gonna say about the game today? What is he gonna say about the game today?
Great comeback win by the Jets today. Jamal Adams was the star of the game. That strip was simply outrageous that he got for the touchdown. The Jets kept the penalties down. As a matter of fact, second and a half, they only had 1 penalty, which was huge for them. They stopped the run. Barkley's not an easy guy to stop, and they stuffed him all day. Darnold was clean this week, which was big. The PI with Anderson was huge down the stretch. And like I said, no turnovers, team win, total team win by the Jets. On to next week.
There you go. It's good to hear Dad happy.
I appreciate that you haven't forced him to come on during all these losses. It's nice of you.
Did you catch that in the background?
What was it?
The William Tell Overture. That's the Lone Ranger. Your dad's watching the Lone Ranger.
Hey, listen, maybe after a big W, Keith and Deb, they just settle into their recliners. They're retired now. And they check out, what's that channel that has all the old shows? MeTV? That's a big baby boomer channel. So maybe they're checking out some MeTV in a big spot.
Yeah.
Keith loves a little Leave It to Beaver. He loves Perry Mason. He likes some of those older shows. So maybe Lone Ranger's not one that I've noticed on his menu in the past, but I'll check in.
Could just be watching something else with that song playing.
That's also possible. Or he could have been listening to the Lone Ranger soundtrack.
Do you have a record player
Everything's
at home?
in play.
Maybe he's just
They
spinning some
certainly have
old
a record
records.
player.
I mean,
I
they're
wanna
probably
party with him.
They're probably having fun tonight.
I will do the reporting on this and get back to you on Tuesday. Let's go to Sunday Night Football.
Oh, yeah.
But first, 2-minute drill presented by Oikos 000. All right, guys. Let us talk about it. Our favorite endings of Week 10, because there were a lot of great endings. Mark, get us going.
The people of Buffalo, from what I can see, are good people. I mean, it's not an attack on them or even the Bills necessarily, but I am happy that Steven Hauschka missed that field goal at the end of today's loss to the Browns, because Cleveland's season would be over otherwise. Instead, because that kick was missed, Cleveland goes into a Thursday night tussle with the Pittsburgh Steelers at home, and that game has meaning and some juice to it, where it would be meaningless and depressing and in further frustrating to me as an old school Browns fan. So there you go, buddy. Buffalo. Sorry about you.
Nice seg, Mark. All right, Wes, you're up.
Nice use of tussle.
Yeah, really well done.
Steelers and Rams had a tussle, and it was appropriate. It was fitting that it was Joe Hayden tipping a pass that Minkah Fitzpatrick intercepted to end the game. Joe Hayden had 5 tip passes in the game, 3 of them diving. Minkah Fitzpatrick had 2 takeaways, including a touchdown in the game-ending interception. This Steelers defense is revitalized. They're playing as well as any defense over the last month. And Minkah Fitzpatrick starting to get some Defensive Player of the Year pub.
As he should. What a run it's been. I will take us to Lambeau Field. What's better once the season gets in full swing and it's snowing in Lambeau and the game's on the line and you give it to the MVP favorite, Christian McCaffrey, and he gets stuffed by the home team in dramatic fashion. He misses a touchdown by 12 inches, maybe 6 inches. The home team wins. Everybody gets in their car and they turn up the heat and they listen to the post-game show and they sleep well at night. That's football. That's America. That's Lambeau Field.
Like it. Why even try to follow that, especially with this pick? Ryan Tannehill running over the Chiefs on the goal line.
Definitely should have closed with Lambeau.
That hurts. I mean, everyone expected Josh Kalu's, blocked kick to be the game,
No, that was the right pick.
But no, the 2-minute drill bits, that's the fans of this segment, they all wanted to see Ryan Tannehill at the goal line.
Headline in Kansas City.
God, I love our drill bits.
Blues, Kalu's.
Anyway, that was the 2-minute drill presented by Oikos 000.
4th and 5 from the Vikings 14. Prescott out of the shotgun. Fade left. Incomplete. Eric Kendricks knocked it away. We all know that Eric Kendricks is top 3 in the league for pass breakups for a linebacker. So they thought that they had that mismatch with Zeke on Eric Kendricks. And Eric Kendricks, Paul, what a beautiful play.
Paul Allen and Pete Bursich of the Vikings Radio Network with the call. Good insight there. Cowboys thought they had the mismatch. Eric Kendricks says no. He swats it away, and essentially that was it for the Dallas Cowboys. The Vikings were able to essentially run out the clock after that and get a 28-24 win in Jerry World. A huge win for the Vikings, who move to 7-3 with the win, and the Cowboys fall to 5-4, keeping the NFC East very interesting. Greg, you weren't a fan of how Jason Garrett and the Cowboys and Kellen Moore ran that final sequence.
Yeah, we'll get to giving the Vikings credit because it's a great road win. I think they dominated up front in the running game on both sides, but Jason Garrett is very often, to me, the difference in close Cowboys games. And in this game, the time that they took in terms of managing the game, especially after they got under the 2-minute warning, they were acting like they were ahead by 4. You want to maximize your chances, and you want to try to get the ball back if you don't score, which ended up happening with as much time as possible. More importantly, they just kept running Ezekiel Elliott on first downs and in key situations when it wasn't working. Bob Sturm, who does an awesome job at The Athletic, would be right near the top of my Athletic writer power rankings. He is amazing. He noticed that 15 of their 23 first downs, this was late in the fourth, so it could have been updated, they ran on first down. And they basically got no yardage on those plays. Zeke was just stuffed, including 5 carries for 3 yards on that last field goal drive. You add that plus how Garrett never goes for it on fourth down. 4 different fourth downs in the game where they're on the Vikings side of the field, and it's 5 or 6 yards or less. They didn't go for it one time.
In fairness to Jason Garrett, Kellen Moore is calling those runs on the first downs, correct?
Well, we don't know if Jason Garrett's telling them, hey, here's the situation.
Whatever it is, the Cowboys offense, that's fair.
Yeah.
The game management stuff in terms of deciding to go for it on fourth down,
that's
that is
all Garrett.
Certainly Garrett.
Yeah.
But yes, paint the broader brush. You got to do better when you have a game like this out of Dak Prescott, which was sensational, and you don't only put up 24 points.
I said early in the year I thought they had one of the best coaching staffs in the league. And Kellen Moore has the number 1 ranked DVOA offense going into this game. John Kitna, the quarterback's coach, I believe has Dak Prescott playing better than he did even in his rookie year. He's been exceptional this year. Rob Marinelli, one of the best position coaches in the league on the defensive line. Chris Richard showed last year he can call the plays really well. I don't trust the head coach. I'm with Greg on that.
That's been the case for years, and a night like this wipes out what was an incredible performance from Amari Cooper, who would have been the talk of the town had they won this thing.
I just sometimes feel like Garrett's a punching bag and he's an easy target when they didn't execute.
What does he? If he's not calling the plays and he's an offensive mind, what does he bring to them? If his games management is suspect, I agree with you. They didn't execute.
I agree. He takes maybe too much of it, but man, I've just watched these close Cowboys losses. It feels like
get that
for a long time, and the whole idea this is an offense first team. It's a pass first team. That's what they're great at, and you're not leaning into it. There was 4 different fourth downs where it was 5, 4, 6 yards. There was a 4th and goal at the end of the game on the 5, and you kicked the field goal. Meanwhile, Dak at one point was 5 for 5 on 3rd down and 10 yards plus. I mean, he's hitting all these impossible throws that he has to make because you keep running on 1st and 2nd down.
And on the other side of the ball, Wes, we talk about it on this podcast a lot now, whether it's something that should be done or should be done. Kirk Cousins is the center of the narrative around the Vikings of whether they sink or swim. And in this case, Cousins was neither the total hero, and he certainly wasn't the GOAT, but he did his job. All that talk about that he's a guy that struggles in these type of spots, well, he was perfectly fine today. And he kept the team moving with some long touchdown drives. He did not turn the ball over, and that's been a major issue with Cousins in games like this in the past. But the star of the game on offense was actually Dalvin Cook, who, again, is a guy that, and he's right behind Christian McCaffrey in terms of total yardage for all NFL players. And you saw it again. He ran for close to 100 yards. He had 7 for 86 through the air. He was on a day where they did not have Adam Thielen, and when you don't have Thielen, Stephon Diggs is not the same player. Dalvin Cook was there again to keep the offense moving.
Made a nice athletic jump pass on that touchdown, which Rudolph made an awesome catch on in the back of the end zone. And you're right. The MVP of this offense, the most important player, is Dalvin Cook, not Kirk Cousins. But Kirk Cousins has still had, he's had some ups and downs, but overall a good year, and once again is a top half of the NFL quarterback.
It's a perception thing too, because had Kirk Cousins' season started with the last 4 games at the beginning of the year, we would be going absolutely nuts about him. It was a wicked slump he had, and it was a team-wide issue, and they are going to continue on with Cook. I love Alexander Mattison being used more and more each week too. I can trust this offense with the two of them.
Right. For all the criticism, I just had with Garrett, the defense of the Cowboys let them down again like they have for much of the season. They give up 2 touchdowns on the first 2 drives of the game. That's a terrible way, obviously, to set the tone. And then the first 2 drives of the second half, Vikings go 12 plays for a field goal, 13 plays for a touchdown. They could not get off the field. And that last touchdown drive, they ran it 10 straight times. That's just Mike Zimmer loving life right there. Like what is it? It's mano y mano.
Those
Those
linebackers last year at the end of the year,
they
boxed everyone into that 10 yards before the first down sticks. And I'd like to read an article or talk to someone and tell me, are the linebackers not playing as well, or are the defensive linemen not clogging up the scene and taking on as many blockers and not allowing the linebackers to do what they do well?
So the Cowboys pile up 443 yards of offense, score 24 points and lose. You take a look at what's going on in the NFC East as a result. I mean, this is supposed to be their division, but when you look at the standings, it's going to be a dogfight down the stretch unless they find a way to start stringing together some wins. Because at 5-4, and Wes and I were talking about this while we watch this game, that DVOA and a lot of the advanced analytics point to the Cowboys as being a top team in the league. But right now they're tied at 5-4, a middling record atop the NFC East. So they got to figure out a way to translate all that great production and those type of numbers into W's, or they're just not going to go very far this season.
Yeah, they're already in a dogfight. They have the same record as the Eagles.
Right, and they are 4-0. The Cowboys are in the division. But this game, I think, could be really big in the playoff picture. Vikings, Cowboys, you figure are going to be two teams that are going to be in the mix to the end, whether that's for a home game as a division winner or whether they're fighting for the 5th or 6th playoff spot. And the Vikings getting the win on the road almost counts a little double.
I think these are both playoff teams still. As frustrating as the Cowboys have been at times this year, I think so. Mark, you don't think so?
No, I have no problem with that. I think the bottom half of the NFC playoff grid is figuring itself out, and the Cowboys, these games are coming down to snippets, plays, little moments, and we'd be talking about the Cowboys completely differently on a night where they had 450-plus yards of offense.
Dalvin Cook bobbles a handoff with a minute to play.
Or it's the last couple moments that shape our entire perception.
Or if Kendricks, doesn't make what really was a great play.
Is a yard behind where he was.
Made the All-Pro team with West did a great job on, and balled out again tonight. There are a lot of positive signs for these Cowboys, including Prescott had no pressure on him for most of the night. Not only does Cooper go for 147, but Cobb goes for over 100. Gallup goes for 76. There's a lot to deal with on this offense. That's why maybe I get a little more frustrated when it doesn't all come together.
I would like to see Ezekiel Elliott move into a period of the season where he's playing dominant.
He was though.
Huh?
Statistically, the last 4 weeks,
games.
He wasn't.
I just don't see the same player right now.
He wasn't making that second-level defender.
Look good last week.
140, 150 yards a game the last month. It's pretty good.
The big plays aren't there. In previous years, he's getting 30, 40, 50, 60-yard plays that aren't there this year.
All right. So, what did we learn today? We learned that the Browns and Jets both won. That hasn't happened a lot, Mark.
Playoff push for both of those franchises.
I liked.
I
liked Baker's press conference outfit. That was a nice bounce back.
No, you didn't.
Well, he's trying really hard.
At least be real about it. You think he was slinging it with arrows downstairs in the newsroom.
I thought that he...
I'm sorry he doesn't have the charisma of Sam Darnold in front of the reporters, but he is who he is. So.
I love how at the end of the spot...
No, because it's like you're taking shots on it downstairs.
I missed the zinger that apparently was so devastating. What I was saying was that he clearly put a lot of effort into today's outfit. Now, that's not a sling and an arrow, and I do believe it was an improvement. He was last week, he was dressed like a guy that should be on a list. This week, it was kind of like a DJ, like a hot DJ, and that's an improvement. That's all.
If he's going to win, I don't care what he's wearing. Half the league has quarterbacks wearing insane stuff after they win or lose games.
Mark, did you like the way Baker looked?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
We did learn something else, though.
Yeah.
It's been 7 seasons. I don't know how many shows that's been. This is our 7th NFL season. It's been a great ride, but what we learned is we're going to have to come up with something else to do Sunday night because we said if we don't go over 10,000 followers on Instagram, the show is over, and we're at 6,300. A nice performance. I mean, we appreciate everyone jumping on board.
From 600 to 6,300, essentially, from Thursday's show.
You made a great effort, and Erica's doing a great job running this account, but ultimately we're men of our word, and the road ends here tonight.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's not, you look at the video preview show for Week 10. I looked at it, over 9,500 people viewed that. and saw the threat and the message that the show would end, a huge chunk of them did not follow the Instagram account page.
If those 9,000 people want to check it out, it's at the ATM Podcast on Instagram.
It's over. So don't even bother following now. This is our last show.
Well, maybe we'll transition into
something else.
Radio or
not.
A different sport, maybe.
I hear the YouTube is popular.
XFL?
Kids like that. Is that the same sort of thing?
What if we start an XFL podcast effective tomorrow?
Then we have to watch XFL games.
Well, we got to start something new. We made a promise.
More time for Courts of Thunder. So that's
there you go.
hitting our off season.
Infamous tennis blog. All right. We probably won't be back Tuesday, but if we were contractually forced to be here, we will be here on Tuesday, and you can continue to follow the NFL with us. We do enjoy it. In all seriousness, that's awesome. We got a ton of new follows on that page, and Ricky is doing great work building it up, which we appreciate.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Dan.
Wait, how did you say thank you the way you just said it? That was a very modern California way to say
I don't know.
it.
I missed it.
It was very
almost
thank you.
Yeah.
That's not what I heard.
But it wasn't as sexy as
Oh yeah.
But
it wasn't equal to that. But I'm more saying it was like a Valley Girl-ish type way. But I will listen to it again on the recording.
All right, good. All right, so that's it. Let's go home. Good show. Good week. Great week of football. Great Sunday. All the way through Sunday night. Dan Hansen signing off for Quiet Storm, the mailman, the old boss, Ricky Hollywood, Ryan Bartlett, and friends. Till Tuesday.